I'm grounded?
Yes, you're grounded.
You disobeyed an order.
That would be such a power move if you're a parent. I work in education, so I might use that myself. You disobeyed a direct order for a kid is crazy. I know it makes more sense for Steven's situation, but I still find it funny, intentionally or not. Also, it's pretty obvious, but this episode is a direct continuation from Mirror Gem. I'm sure all of you know that, but if you're a new viewer and somehow miss the previous episode, you'll be entirely lost on the plot. That hasn't been an issue so far because all of the episodes before this are pretty much self-contained stories. They work independently of each other. Being the mid-season finale, this episode has a lot of continuity in general. Pretty much the whole season gets referenced in this episode, and I'll be sure to point out as much as I can.
Dad?
You guys better come check this out.
This is the first time we see Greg in Steven's house. That's weird, right? Weird that he doesn't live with him for like the whole show. As far as I know, he helped build the place. I suppose some of that will be touched on next episode. All of the townies in this shot seem shocked that the ocean is gone, but Nanafa is fucking pissed. She was ready for summer. She got her swimsuit and duck floaty ready, and for what? Also, continuity update, all of the townies we see here got proper introductions and spotlights in previous episodes. It's definitely intentional that they omitted any nameless background characters because these characters were the ones we spent all that time getting to know, and now we can glean why they'd be so pissed that the ocean is gone. These are the people that Steven is trying to save. Connie is extra small in this shot, and it definitely looks like she was added in at a later point, partly supported by the fact that she's not in the immediate next shot.
Whoa!
Here's the post Ronaldo made on Keep Beach City Weird with this photo. There's a few of these for this episode. I'll include all of them, don't you worry. I love how nasty they made Mayor Dewey. He always presents himself kind of poorly. Here he's sweaty and unkempt like he just got out of bed. But most of the show his suit's too big, he's not very personable, making you wonder how he ever became mayor in the first place. I have to point it out, the giant sword again. Every time I point it out, I have people telling me that they never saw it before. It quite obviously belonged to the temple statue at some point. It's also possible that it's a real sword, it's the real deal, because it's not actually that close to the statue.
Who's gonna buy my fries?
And my pizza! Who's gonna have fun at Funland?
Damn, no, what about the ecological impacts? I suppose that's a void for me to fill. What about the ecological impacts? If the ocean is totally gone, how does that affect the weather? Also, is it all of the oceans? Like, is this impacting coastal towns all over the world? What about the rotation of the Earth itself? I know they built a dam in China and it slowed the rotation of the Earth down a measurable amount. What does putting all of the water on one side of the planet do? Also, is it all the water? Is it just the ocean, or did Lapis steal the rivers and lakes that connect to it as well? If that's the case, what happens to the freshwater fish, or more importantly, people's drinking water? Someone stop me, please, because I could just keep going on with this.
It was lapis lazuli.
Lapis lazuli?
She's the gem you released from the mirror.
Steven's memory is fucked. They were just talking about how he's grounded at the beginning of the episode. Why? Because he released lapis lazuli like less than a day ago. I know it's for the audience, a desperate attempt to catch them up from last episode, but it feels forced and unnatural, and you're gonna need a lot more than that to catch people up at this point. This is like the only time they do it in the show. When episodes start immediately following each other more and more, they just let it naturally happen and don't bother with a recap. We've only got 11 minutes each episode, you can't be wasting it on a recap each time. Continuity point, the cheeseburger backpack makes an appearance. Of course, introduced in Cheeseburger Backpack. This sunscreen is rated for SPF 1000, which would probably do you some good in the vacuum of space. On Earth, it's probably overkill. I think the consensus is SPF 70 is even overkill, and bad for your skin.
I'm gonna bring the ocean back, or get really thirsty trying.
Like hell you are, don't you know what grounding means? Also, trailer line. That may be the one that's most burned into my psyche because they made such a huge deal out of these episodes when they came out, rightfully so.
Wait up, kiddo. I'm coming with you.
I want to help too. Also, I feel weird being in your house if you're not here.
I find it strange that the humans are the first to volunteer to go with Steven, especially right after hearing Pearl talk about how powerful Lapis was. Connie's only been on one magical adventure, and I don't even know if Greg has been on any before Steven was born. I think it could have played out better if the Gems volunteered first, then Greg was like, "You're gonna need a ride," and then Connie could follow up saying that she doesn't want to be left alone. There's one tiny shot where the stools are missing. At least I think they're missing. It's possible they're just barely out of frame. I love this gag with the mayor, and his voice actor totally carries the joke. The comically oversized Beach City water tower will probably come in handy here. I'm no marine biologist, at least not professionally. I'll preface that now since I'll have a bunch to talk about since the rest of the episode takes place on the seabed. Anyway, there's a bunch of coral growing on these rocks, which is just not possible off the East Coast, where the show takes place. Deep sea corals exist, but some of these rocks are right near the beach.
This is one of Rose's favorites. So what do you think, Garnet?
None of the gems have any respect for Rose's taste in music. Go find the full track. It's short, but it goes hard. I can't deny that. This is the fucking chillest pose ever. Garnet can be tense a lot of the time, but damn does she know how to relax. Also kinda reminiscent of her pose in the intro, but not quite. Amethyst and Greg have a lot in common. Hoarding, sleeping on said hoard, being some of the best characters in the show. That gets a spotlight in a later episode this season, so I'll have more to talk about when I get to that one. I gotta wonder what Connie's parents were thinking when she ended up disappearing all night. Was she supposed to be staying at Steven's house? I don't know how if Steven's supposedly grounded. I feel like Connie's parents are a bit of a plot hole until a few episodes from now. They're just missing. She mentions them in Bubble Buddies, but like, we aren't shown that she has parents during all this.
All gems aren't necessarily good.
All those monsters we fight used to be just like us, right, Pearl?
And here it is, the first of many secrets the show's been keeping. The best part is, the show gives you all the pieces. You can figure this out yourself if you're paying close enough attention. I've said it in a previous episode, but gem monsters follow the same rules as the gems themselves. The show also does these kinds of reveals really well. All the pieces are there for you to put together yourself, but it also tries to mislead you. There's fake pieces mixed in with the real ones. That's why this fandom comes up with some crazy crackpot theories. You try to fit these pieces into places where they just don't fit, but it's satisfying when they do. I got one reveal right when I watched this show for the first time. I'll talk about that when I get to that episode.
That's some magical destiny stuff right there.
Connie talks a lot about magical destiny throughout the show. I said previously that she reads too many books, and that definitely shows when she keeps trying to tell Steven that he has some sort of destiny. It's hard to tell how right she is knowing how the show plays out by the end, but for the majority of it, Steven's just doing what has to be done. He doesn't have a clear role laid out for him. There's an episode in a later season where that has some satisfying payoff. All of these fish should be dead, all of them. Fish genocide. Except maybe the ocean sunfish. I think those guys are indestructible or something. Also, the whales are dead. There isn't even any room for whales in here.
You shouldn't be here!
She sensed us.
Yeah, but how? This is the first point on power scaling. Lapis can apparently see and hear and speak through the water she's controlling, which never comes up again in this whole series. An homage to the Wizard of Oz, perhaps? Pay no attention to the gem at the top of this tower. This is definitely more of a video game trope, but I still like it. I'm you, but stronger! Also, more power scaling problems. Lapis can replicate each of the crystal gems, their weapons, their powers, but stronger. That, and she can control all of the water, presumably on the whole planet. All that with a cracked gem. At the end of the episode, her gem is healed and she fucks off, but when she comes back, she doesn't exhibit anything near that level of magic, even with a fully repaired gem. Why? I think because of retcons. I don't have any evidence to support this besides the way it's presented in the show, but I don't think Lapis was supposed to be a mainstay after season 1. If at this point the writers knew that she would be back, they probably wouldn't have given her this kind of power in this episode.
Stand together. Don't let them separate us.
Maybe consider following your own advice, Garnet, or here's some better advice: don't take your eyes off the enemy. This is the coolest use of Amethyst's whip that almost never comes up. She can lasso shit and chuck it at people. I think the show misses a lot of opportunities to make the environment interesting during fight scenes, even in this scene. Other than a few rocks, the fights are basically happening in flat arenas with nothing to play off of. Consider John Wick for a second. We'll get back on topic in just a sec. But every fight scene in those movies is intentionally somewhere the characters can play with their environment. Characters will pick things up to use as weapons, or they can use obstacles to trick each other. Steven Universe does almost none of that. I can name 2 fight scenes in the whole show that use the environment at all, and this is one of them. Which sucks, because usually the animation is fantastic. I just wish they did more.
I hate fighting me.
I can't blame you the last time you got yourself killed. I do like that Greg and Connie and Lion later all get something to do. They aren't just here for show, they each play a part in this fight.
Are you okay?
Oh, I think my leg's broken.
That's pretty minor considering all the loose crap that could have fallen on him and crushed him to death. Again, Greg is a fucking tank throughout this show.
Lapis! I don't want to fight anymore! I said, I don't want to fight!
Fuck yeah, that's the second shield in the whole show. Again, more continuity from episode 1. Do you think the shield ringing caused all the water clones to disintegrate, or was Lapis just like, fuck it, I don't want to fight either? Is this hand made of ice, or like super extra dense water? This episode is full of Lapis's magic bullshit that never comes up again. If you're high up enough to see the curvature of the Earth, you're way past any breathable atmosphere. Steven's head should have exploded when it popped out of the water. Also, I think that SPF 1000 is coming in handy here, protecting him from all that cosmic radiation. They made space look so pretty in this scene. They don't make it look like this in other space episodes, and it's a damn shame. I fucking love the colors in this one. The whole scene gives me Mario Galaxy vibes. Alright, are these wings Lapis's gem weapon or not? If not, does she even have a gem weapon? This goes unanswered for literally the entire show.
Thank you, Steven.
No prob, Bob.
Yeah, Bob comes back later, don't you fucking worry.
Okay. Bye.
This scene, as much as I like it, as mystical and serene as it is, becomes really clunky by the end. Lapis just saying okay bye always felt unsatisfying to me. Maybe that's the point, maybe you're supposed to be left wanting more, wanting a more satisfying conclusion. The way this tower falls apart in big blocks is a lot like the Lunar Sea Spire in Cheeseburger Backpack. Makes me think the magic holding that water back is the same magic that was holding the tower together. Here's that Keep Each City Weird post for when the ocean comes back. I thought there were more posts related to this episode, but it's just the two.
So, Lapis made it off planet.
What does this mean for us?
We wait and see.
Lapis making it off Earth is the second domino that falls in the overarching story. I should elaborate on that more because I don't think I was clear enough in the last video. And massive spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen the whole show for some reason. Click off the video now if you don't want spoilers. During the tail end of the Gem War 6,000 years ago, Homeworld implanted the cluster into the Earth to incubate. After the crystal gems basically won the war, the remaining diamonds decide to just blast the Earth and hopefully kill everything that was left on the planet, cluster included. They had no intention to come back. However, Lapis making it back to Homeworld was evidence that there are gems on Earth that survived, reigniting interest in the planet and the cluster. All of the events that happen in the show lead back to the moment Steven pulled Lapis out of the mirror. If that didn't happen, there would be no Peridot, no Jasper, no Human Zoo, no Aquamarine and Topaz. None of that would have happened without Steven setting it into motion. And for that, this episode is super important. Not only that, it's everything I want out of Steven Universe. While I do like the previous episode more for its darker tone that this show is so good at, this episode is pretty damn close. While last episode was more emotional and dialogue heavy, this episode was more action heavy. All of the characters were on full display, which is good, but with the episode being 11 minutes, each character only gets to do one thing during the fight at the end. This episode also feels like a season finale too, because it kind of is. Season 1 is double the length of the other seasons, and usually gets split into two halves, 1A and 1B. This is the 1A finale, and even though it's a finale, it leaves another plotline unresolved, one that doesn't resolve until the end of 1B. It leaves you satisfied, but it also leaves it open for you to come back for more. Like I said last episode too, I wanted to do a full recap of the first half and try to give my full thoughts on it. Rewatching early season 1 is always a treat. There basically isn't any continuity, but there's a ton of details that they call back to in later episodes. Most of these episodes I really like, but a lot of them feel entirely disconnected from the rest of the show. For new viewers, watching the early episodes is basically a requirement in order to enjoy the rest of the show, but man is it a slog sometimes. It's a fine mesh screen that'll filter out anyone who wouldn't enjoy the rest of the show, and probably a lot of other people who would, but couldn't get past those first few moments where Steven is entirely unbearable and the other characters can really be uninteresting. I'm glad I was able to power through it when I first watched it, and I'm glad I was able to get through it all for Gemology, because overall, this show just gets better from here. The rest of Season 1 is something to look forward to, and Season 2 is even better. From this point forward, everything's serialized instead of Monster of the Week. I do miss shows that do Monster of the Week, though. I hope whenever we get Lars of the Stars, they can strike a balance between the two styles. Man, I don't know how to end this one. This is the longest episode of Gemology so far. I suppose I'll say I'm going to take a short break for a week, maybe 2, just so I don't burn myself out. I have at least one kind of different video in the works, maybe a second if I can make it in time, but after that, we'll be back to our regular episodes of Gemology every Wednesday. If you want to see that new video or future episodes of Gemology a week in advance, you can subscribe to my Patreon for just a couple bucks. The link is in the description. Shoutouts to my journeyman patrons, Alex Martin, Boomblorp, Emily, Fiore Army, Sindirant, Scala LD, Stephen Wickers, and the Tamara. Also shoutouts to my apprentice patrons. Next video is going to be your hot takes, and when we get back to it, the next episode of Steven Universe is House Guest. Thanks for sticking with me for this so far.